Well, thank you all first for donating part of your happy hour for us today. It's a hard slot at the end of the day between a full day of sessions and then obviously the Dreamfest later on. But a quick introduction of myself. My name's Cronin. I'm the European CTO of Accenture's Salesforce Business Group. I've been working with Salesforce for most of my career, about 16 plus years. And I work with everything from being a developer all the way through to what I do now, which is leading the technical conversation at Accenture for Salesforce. One of the great things about my job is the perspective you get about seeing what are the challenges customers face, not just across one or two verticals, but across the whole lot, and across the globe as well, which is quite interesting. And the other thing that's quite interesting as well is understanding how they've approached it and the success that they've had at approaching those and rising to those challenges. The other thing that's quite interesting is obviously being in the space for quite a while is seeing how those problems have evolved over time. To give an example, when I first started in Salesforce 16 years ago, Visualforce had just come out, and the predominant challenges were engineering challenges. So you were facing with how to integrate systems, how to customize, just due to the breadth and the depth of the Salesforce offering at the time. But that's kind of evolved a lot since then. So predominantly what we're seeing with customers these days is the challenges are quite distinctly different. And that's because the Salesforce has evolved with regards to its capabilities. And a lot of organizations are now running pretty much end-to-end a lot of their critical processes and end-to-end business processes that are kind of critical for them to kind of keep the lights on. So one of the things that have been quite interesting is as that's happened, the things that have become important to them have changed. And one of the key things that's changed is obviously the innovation. So one of the things that people see is that they've been using Salesforce for a long time. How do they keep innovating on the platform? The second one that kind of comes up pretty regularly as well is how they manage their estate. So over 10 or so years, they've added different applications on. And as they've done that, the technologies has moved onwards. And, developing applications, they're as perfect as the people who implement them, right? So there's always flaws and technical debt and things that kind of get into it. So how do you manage that over a prolific implementation? And the last one is obviously, specifically in the current economic climate, there's a lot of pressure on delivering value and often delivering value with less resources and capabilities present. So these are the key and central themes of what we wanted to kind of go through today on the panel. So I'll stop talking because really the content is with these guys here. So what we're going to do today is we'll go through a number of questions. We're going to jump around a little bit because we've obviously got a short amount of time and there's quite a lot of breadth to this topic. We'll have some time at the end, so if there's any insights that you guys have that you want to bring to the table, or if there's any questions you have for the panelists, then feel free to grab the mic over there and ask. We'll keep 5 to 10 minutes for that. So with that, let me quickly introduce the panel. So maybe we'll quickly start with Louis.
Absolutely, thanks, Cameron. So Louis Lafratta, I am part of our Salesforce business group with Accenture as well, and I lead our travel, transportation, and hospitality industries.
Colin.
I'm Colin Robinson. I work for Quality Clouds. Our product actually helps Salesforce customers manage and govern their Salesforce quality of their development. At Quality Clouds, I look after partnerships and for consulting companies and SIs.
Perfect. Moorthy.
Good afternoon. My name is Moorthy Srinivasan. I'm the Director for Salesforce Center of Excellence at IHG, one of the leading hotels globally.
And I am Tim Bryson, the Group Product Manager of the Salesforce Center of Excellence. I've been at IHG for 13 years, so I've seen a lot of this journey. So glad to be here.
Thanks, guys. So maybe to kind of give a bit of context, maybe where we can start is maybe Moorthy and Tim, if you could share a little bit about what Salesforce is currently doing at IHG today. And then Tim, obviously, with your tenure, it'd be good to get a bit of an understanding of how it's evolved over time as well.
Yeah. One of the things that IHG does on the Salesforce ecosystem, first of all, I'll give a little bit of background, those of you who don't know how IHG operates as a business model. So we have more than 6,000 properties throughout the globe. More than 90% of our hotels are owned by franchisees, so what we call owners and mainly mom and pop owners, single owners, and private equity companies and things like that. So what we have done on the Salesforce platform is we manage the entire what we call the owner life cycle. Now, if there's an owner that today, as you know, in the hotel industry, people keep changing their brands. Today, they may be an owner of a Hilton property. Tomorrow they may switch to IHG, and this goes on, constantly. So we manage that process of, converting from a different brand to an IHG brand, or if they want to build a brand new greenfield hotel. All those processes are managed through a Salesforce instance that my team is responsible for in terms of delivering feature and functionality. Other than that, we also have the operational processes. Once the hotel is open to accepting guests, obviously we need to make sure that these hotels are maintaining our brand standards. They are maintaining the quality and things like that. So all those processes are also managed through Salesforce today. And then the third pillar is around our B2B sales. Now we have negotiated rates with many of our clients, including some of you in this audience today. So we manage that entire process through Salesforce as well.
Perfect.
So let me follow up with Moorthy there. So, I've been at IHG for 13 years, and we've been in the Salesforce journey roughly 10 of that. It started with one org, and then with a credit card and a keystroke, a bunch more popped up, right? So at this point, right now, the Salesforce Center of Excellence was formed about 7 years ago. I've been in this particular team 5 years. And what the purpose of building the SCOE was to bring that knowledge and that governance around all those orgs. And as we're getting farther into this journey over the last couple of years, for me personally, the tool evolving, it's allowing our owner lifecycle to be more successful, and then ultimately, some of you may know, I'll bring it up really quick. So we're going down a journey with Salesforce and IHG on our transformation project with loyalty. There was a session earlier today. So we're getting ready to not only continue to improve on our owner side, but on our loyalty side that's coming in, then ultimately we're going to branch this all together, and it's going to come together for a great story within Salesforce for IHG.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys, for the context. So the first question I really wanted to get into is understand, business value, as we mentioned, is a question that a lot of organizations are asking, is how do you drive more value through the platform, specifically large platforms like Salesforce, where there's quite a large investment. So maybe if you could talk through some of your experience, Moorthy, what are some of the strategies or insights that you could share with the audience?
Yeah. I would like to expand the question in terms of the scope. So what we look at in terms of value is not only the Salesforce as a platform, we look at Salesforce as an ecosystem. So with that in mind, we have several tools and technologies that we currently use that would maximize the value on the Salesforce ecosystem. For example, one of the things that we currently use is from Quality Clouds. And basically what we have done over there in our DevOps pipeline that we use Quality Clouds in a way that things are done and caught in terms of issues, what they call shift left. So before the code gets promoted to a higher environment, we make sure that the code is of a particular quality that we want to maintain in the environment. So that's what we have done. So not only the Salesforce itself, in the Salesforce ecosystem, we have implemented processes, we have implemented tools that work well with the Salesforce platform so that we can maximize the value of the investment that you have made in the Salesforce ecosystem as a whole.
Okay, great. That's really good. I was just thinking maybe, Lewis, you obviously work closely with IHG. Could you maybe talk a bit about, from a partner's perspective, what are some of the things that we're doing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the evolution of the COE with time, right, and I think Moorthy's point there, where it's not just tools, right, it's also processes, right, powered by tools. And the processes and tools that we've put in place, I think the key word that comes to mind for me is accountability, right? Ensuring that these guys as owners of the product, right, and the solution are being accountable to IHG as a whole, but also us as partners, right, are being held accountable for the quality of our delivery, and for the efficacy of our delivery. Everyone here probably has, right, a multi-environment, multi-scrum team, right, multi-vendor environment, and really it's difficult to control and understand really what's happening within those environments, right? Lots of different teams, lots of different folks are developing or configuring the solution. So having those process controls from DevOps to testing to quality put in place right? Helps, of course, understand what's happening and keep that quality, but as I mentioned at the start, right, helps keep us and themselves accountable to delivering something of quality on the platform and something that's going to scale on the platform as we start innovating with all these new technologies that Salesforce is releasing.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for sharing. So just to jump onto the next question, obviously you've been on this journey for a period of time, right? And there's been a number of different projects that you've run and you bring in new products and so forth. And one of the elephant in the room I see a lot with customers is technical debt. Firstly, it's kind of a fairly nebulous topic, right? Because it means a lot of different things to different people. So maybe if you could maybe share, maybe Moorthy, like what does technical debt, like what does that mean to you at IHG? And then secondly, like how do you address it? Like how do you tackle it?
Yeah, as you guys know, Salesforce as a platform, basically their claim to fame is low code, no code configuration and things like that. At the end of the day, Salesforce is also a platform where people can write their own code. You can customize Salesforce to the hilt if you want. So one of the things that we do as part of the SCOE is we look at the requirements and see, is this something that we should use out-of-the-box feature functionality from Salesforce, or should we customize? So we take the extreme step of customization only if the Salesforce platform cannot meet our business needs. So this one thing that we do consciously, at least in the past couple of years that I've been at IHG, making sure that we use out-of-the-box features to the maximum possible extent, and then go to the customization route if we have to. And then on top of that, we are using the tool from Quality Clouds. Basically, that gives a good metric for us in terms of technical debt. And we, so much so that now with all of our delivery partners that we currently use on the Salesforce ecosystem, we use the metric from Quality Cloud in the SOW so that the delivery partners are on the hook to delivering quality code at that metric. If they fall below that metric, they have to remediate any of the things that they on the code itself so that it is up to or above what the metric is in the SOW. So we have done so many things using Quality Cloud as a platform, and also making sure that our technical debt is reduced over time. And we have seen great results in the past 2 years, so using that metric.
Perfect. And that's kind of what you were mentioning before about the accountability of the partner as well, like tying into the metrics, into the contracts and such as well. Yeah. So Colin, you obviously at Quality Clouds, you probably see a lot of customers who are kind of facing similar challenges. Is there any like adds or builds you want to add onto that?
Yeah, first up, I'd like to just comment that I think you guys are really very mature in how you're governing that and aligning suppliers to those goals. Actually, that's a pretty mature governance model. Yeah. But I mean, technical debt, it can be, I think we all see it can be a real handbrake for Salesforce customers. It can kind of inhibit innovation. It can inhibit taking advantage of Salesforce features that they often bring out. Some of the great stuff we've seen this week, for example. You can have teams focusing more on fixing problems rather than new business functionality.
Right.
And yet there's often, with a lot of customers, a lot of uncertainty, as you were mentioning about technical debt. Sometimes that's because it's hidden, actually. Sometimes that's because it's misunderstood. And sometimes that's because there isn't a common kind of vocabulary around it, definition, as you were saying, Cam. So it's kind of interesting for all of that. And I think one of the things that's, as a starting point for anyone with this to break through that is really to replace that uncertainty with visibility into your entire Salesforce platform. So all the orgs, all the sandboxes, you can compare actually, what's in one team versus in the other. You compare it over time. These sort of just data around it, so it stops being a subjective discussion and more based on data. To turn that uncertainty into actual, visibility, so it helps a company make informed decisions about the risks, about the issues they see, how to prioritize fixes to that. And one other point on this is just prevention. So it's all very well finding it and fixing it, but actually really important is to kind of prevent it. And I think, Moorthy, you talk about shift left governance and actually getting that in place first up so it doesn't go all the way through testing into production. I think that's really critical to put in those prevention, governance, methods, basically.
Yeah, it gets much more costly the further it goes to the right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, just to pick up on that, 'cause, live and breathe this stuff. That they just on that, the ROI on that. We've a bank actually. I won't mention them, but they did some calculations on how much they save on each issue as it goes through that. If you capture it shift left, it's on average about 8 hours per issue, which multiplied up to about $900,000 a month they were saving. So there's actually an economic benefit to this too.
Yeah. Perfect. There's something you both said that I found interesting. I'm probably sure some people in the audience as well kind of face this, which is, Salesforce has evolved. When I first started, as I mentioned, it was Apex and Visualforce, if you were lucky. Nowadays, you've got, even the tools you've been released around the AI capabilities, a lot of them are based on like low code or no code. And at least in the solutioning rooms that I'm in, and I'm sure, Tim, you've probably been in some of these kind of discussions as well, is that it's not necessarily easy to decide, like, what do we code this? Do we configure this? Like, what's the right approach? And you touched on it as well, Moorthy. Is there any insights that you guys could give just from how you approach that kind of discussion about should we code something? Should we use a low-code solution? Like, how do you get to like a balance on that one?
So, ultimately for us, over the last couple of years, we really focused on business process prior to getting into those discussions, right? We often get presented with old apps that need to be reimagined in a new Salesforce org, and ultimately, we don't want to do a lift and shift. Mm-hmm. So we understand that business process, and then ultimately, we preach the out-of-the-box functionality, right? Because the more custom code we have, the less access we have to the 3 releases every year. We have to go back and have support costs around all that new development costs. So we really preach out of the box. And when the tool evolving in the way it is and what we've seen already this week, I think we're going to even jump faster into that model and stay, if I had a goal, I would like 90-10. I know that's not realistic, but 80-20 is kind of the area in which we're focusing on.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Colin, again, this is kind of your area as well. Is there any builds you want to add to that?
I think that's a good goal, and just even that you've got a goal and a target is a starting point, I guess, to measure against, whether it changes over time. But I think that's sensible in the present. I totally agree with what Salesforce are doing, and certainly we see that, as it's moving, whether it's citizen development or moving to flow and agent force, etc. I think the only comment I would make would be just from a quality lens. I think pure configuration isn't a silver bullet, actually, sometimes. Yeah. There's logic in there. Our tool actually, it's got best practices on no-code, low-code as well. And, so we've seen some customers that create performance issues, even though it's, good configuration, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you see that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not one shoe fits all sizes, but, it's ultimately at least some guardrails to start the conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's some examples of customers I've been into where you kind of open up the flow and you see the flows literally could reach the moon. It's like they've used it, but there maybe have been a better way to implement some of these things. So it is kind of figuring out what's the right balance. And I think what you guys are saying, like having something to say, this is the pecking order of how we look at things is like really smart, because then it's like you're not kind of going into it and it's a gray area. You've at least got like a structure of how you kind of look at things, which I think is great.
Yeah, basically we'll have a conscious decision of why you are customizing Salesforce for this particular feature. So as long as it's documented and very well understood, then it's okay. We're not saying customization is all bad. The customizations needs to happen in the Salesforce environment, but with a conscious decision of all the stakeholders involved.
Yep. And I'll add to that, right? One of the things that we do quite often is we do lots of pilots or POCs, right? Where it's like, let's go see if we can do it out of the box. Let's go show, right, the business, does this make sense? And if then, right, it doesn't, because sometimes you really have to see it, right, to believe it, right? We can sit here and tell you, we can do that with customization, but until we do a pilot and show it to them, it doesn't become real. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that we've done to help try to keep to that 80-20, right? 90-10 would be great. But.
I mean, we've probably done, over the last 2 years, 5, 6, 7 decent-sized POCs.
Yeah.
Because at IHG, ultimately, it's, we're a hotel company, right? So we thrive on technology, but it's still a bottom line cost. So we want to highlight the realm of capabilities. And ultimately, through these POCs, we've been able to generate additional, not only purchases, but implementing tools that really meet the business needs.
Could we maybe spend a bit of time on that? It's quite interesting. So when you, let's say, for example, there's a new business requirement that comes in. So from that to how you get it to production, could you maybe talk a little bit about that? Would that be something you guys would be okay to have a chat about?
Yeah, I can take on that, and then Tim can add. So in the past couple of years, we have implemented what we call an SCOE intake process. So basically, that's all built on Salesforce, actually. So we have our own an org where we maintain those intakes. And then we do have, every other week, there's a meeting that we have that Tim and I co-host. We talk about all these requirements coming down the pike from various business stakeholders that under our remit. Then we discuss how it should be solutioned for. Because we also take input from Salesforce and our partners as well, and making sure that we are coming up with the right solution for the business problem that we have on hand. In most of the cases, not only the out-of-the-box Salesforce, we also look at App Exchange. That's another great resource where you have, App Exchange products out there by ISVs of Salesforce platform, and that would actually address most of your business needs. Case in point, we have used at least a couple of App Exchange products in the past couple of years that would address some of the specific needs on the owner lifecycle that I was talking about.
That's interesting,
And just following up on that, so that process that Moorthy's talking about, I actually built our own CRM tool within the SUE to manage our licenses. We have about 2,500 active users. And so we manage everything from monthly license counts to actual data storage. So I can get a snapshot of it all in one place. And I even built a small little app that I can see we manage 8 orgs on our side. And so I dump all the user bases in and I look where I have duplications of licenses and how I overcome that in the future with Data Cloud. So,
and on those 8 orgs, right? I think one of the great things that y'all have done as part of the COE is the consistency, right, in your DevOps processes and tools, in your test automation processes, in your backup processes, in your quality control processes. Maybe Moorthy, you want to maybe add a little bit onto that?
Yeah, definitely. The standard processes is a key. In fact, not only we have preferred partners in terms of delivering solutions on the Salesforce ecosystem, but time and again, we also bring other partners as well because they have a niche practice. They have a niche skill set that our current partners may or may not have. So in that case, now we have given a project to these other external vendors, but we control the DevOps process internally at IHG. So what that allows us to do is now we can go to any partner out there in the market that would address our specific business needs, but all the DevOps processes, the testing processes, the quality processes, all of those things are controlled by IHG. So that gives us a much more flexibility in terms of how we address our business stakeholders' needs in a timely manner.
I'd wish all Salesforce customers did the same approach as you guys because it'd make things so much easier. There's been some nightmares I've seen where you've had multiple DevOps approaches and the conflicts that go with that has been horrendous. But no, that's really interesting.
Just on that, when did you change to this model? Because presumably, you mentioned people buying orgs on credit cards.
So I've been there 5 years, so I know it had stopped at that point. Our CTO had put an end to that. So ultimately that stopped, but then as the SEOE started getting more mature, we started down, we changed from one DevOps tool to the other DevOps tool that we're currently using. We went into a backup solution at that point, so we started getting more mature. I actually met Quality Clouds here 5 years ago, and there was 2 people at the show. So we've grown with Quality Clouds as this tool has continued to evolve. So it's, I would say in the last 2 years, honestly, since Moorthy joined the company 2 years, he brought in a different element of DevOps and management of that, and it matured us at an exponential rate. So.
That's great. Okay, well, the last question I've got before we go to questions is, you've talked a lot about how you've kind of got your processes together, how you're kind of evolving the platform. One topic that comes up regularly is innovation. And innovation can sometimes be perceived in very different ways, right? So it's not just the small box of, hey, there's a new Salesforce tool, we're going to implement that. It could be changes to processes, it could be new ways of working, new maturities in how you kind of approach certain tasks and stuff like that. What's your model? How do you look at innovation at IHG?
When people talk about innovation, everybody gravitates towards tools, technology, and things like that. But I look at innovation at a much more higher level, including processes. I'll give you an example. A couple of days ago, I rode Waymo here in San Francisco. Okay? Those who use Uber and Lyft and all the other rideshare platform, actually I had to change my behavior so that I can take advantage of this new technology, Waymo's, driverless cars out there. It's basically, I have to change my behavior as well. So there's a change management aspect to it. So people often forget that users have to change their behavior and processes for an innovation powered by technology to be of useful to address their business needs. So that's how I see innovation, not necessarily this cool piece of technology out there coming out from either Salesforce or any of the software vendors out there.
Nice. Tim, is there any builds from your perspective?
Yeah, so I'm a button pusher. I'm that guy that gets in the car and I want to hit every button. So innovation to me is, what does that button do and can I make my life easier? In this particular scenario, I've been thinking about this, and 2 years ago we went down a journey with one of our orgs. It had 50% usage. We were wasting money, literally just sitting idle. People weren't using the tool. They didn't like it. They didn't want to use it. We'd heard every bad thing about it to the point the stakeholder was getting ready to start looking for another platform to move off the Salesforce platform. And so I said, pause. What's the issue? Let's step back. Let's look at the issue. And it turned out, it came down to some accountability things that we were talking about for those users. And it was just, when you looked at the app, it was like, okay, this was one of the original apps. It was kind of old and tired. So we sat back with requirements. Some guy walked to me and said, hey, we need to figure out how to put this Word document in Salesforce. And this was task around hotels. And I said, why in the world would you put a Word document inside Salesforce? Why isn't this not a record and a task and a measurable KPI? So we started there. And part two of that conversation was, we wanted a mobile app. We were trying to use the Salesforce mobile app, and security settings at IHG did not allow us to get what we needed out of it. The cross-site tracking function inside Safari had to be turned off to get to where we wanted to be. Couldn't get there. So then I'm like, well, let's look at mobile publishing. We'll spin up a little Experience Cloud, we'll get what we need, expose the data, spin up our own mobile app and play there. Well then, my stakeholder, who's actually in the room, we sat back and I said, let's reimagine this whole thing. Let's just reimagine it. Let's take a step back and identify what the problem is and how do we fix it. And so we organized as a team. And the first thing we realized is we didn't have a documented business process like I spoke about before. So we identified that. We spent probably 2-3 weeks just going through that. And then after we were able to do that, we were able to hand that off and start building the process. And one successful piece that we did is we took 5 champions, 3 that were for the platform and 2 that they said we couldn't do it. And so we built it out, and 18 months ago we delivered probably one of the best apps that I've ever delivered at IHG. Right. It's mobile first, because these are all field users, so they need to be mobile, and it's just continuing to grow. And in the journey around this particular piece is I'm going to put this data in the data cloud and action on it here very soon. And be able to say what our hotels can do, what they need to do better, why are they successful, those kind of things. So ultimately it's sometimes you got to take that big step back to get that giant leap forward, and get the process in there.
And I'll add to that, right? I think when we think about innovation, I always think, we want to fail or succeed fast, right? And in order to be able to move fast and quickly, enable new technologies and processes, right? You need that foundation, right? Tying it all back where you need to have the right level of technical debt out of there so it doesn't prohibit you from moving forward. You need to have the right DevOps processes and tools and automation, right? To allow you to innovate and move forward. Oftentimes, not here, but at other clients, right? Where we're trying to innovate, but we can't because there's 5-6 things in the way. This entire process, that's the SEOE and tools that they put together, really allow that innovation. And, we've got now workshops, right? And we also, the way we innovate is we come in, it's like, let's go put in Data Cloud and figure it out. Well, let's talk about use cases and value, right? Let's figure out what we want to go and why is it going to be important to our business. Then very specifically, right, tackle one of those at a time and slowly prove that value. And we wouldn't be able to do that, right, if we didn't have all the other processes and tools in place.
It's really refreshing to hear because we see a lot of customers who are just wading through the technical debt and they can't move to that place of innovation. So
well, one thing I don't think we highlighted enough too was the testing, the automation of our testing. So we're going into N+1. So we are going to try to get automated fully on all of our orgs by the end of the year, and then ultimately we would like to get into continuous deployment. Get that user story built, get it tested, and get it sent out, get it into production. Let's move faster, let's deliver faster. So
N+1. You said it. It's recorded.
Yeah.
There's one more question I wanted to put before we go to questions from the audience. Moorthy, you said something very interesting about buy versus build. I deal with a lot of customers who really struggle with, for example, why don't we build our own DevOps? Or, I could build the CPQ solution, I can just use a platform license. How do you think about that type of thing? When you have a decision between a buy versus build decision?
My personal preference is always buy. So, I stay away from build. I've been in IT for so long, and customization and build your own stuff doesn't work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And why reinvent the wheel? There are tools out there that work very well in the Salesforce ecosystem. And when you buy, you not only buy. First of all, you're not spending money in building stuff. Obviously, there's a cost of buying stuff as well.
Yeah.
But along with that, you're also buying the innovation that those companies will bring to the table.
Yeah.
Just like you're buying Salesforce as a platform. You're not only paying for the monthly license fee, but what you're buying is the innovation that Salesforce brings to the table 3 times every year, consistently. Some similar approach, when you buy these tools for DevOps or any of the other processes, so you're also getting innovation from these companies because they work with multiple clients.
Yeah.
So IHG is not their only client. They work with other clients as well. So they bring all those innovation in their product capabilities that we ultimately use for our own benefit.
And I'll add one to that, right? Quality clouds, for example, right? There are constantly new checks and triggers that are coming in, right? So, it's not a point in time quality check. It's as the tools and the checks evolve, right? We're constantly having to up our game, right? To stay at the standard with the new checks that are coming in, with the new, right, innovation that's being brought by the platform, right? So it causes us to also raise our level of quality and our level of accountability, right? The bar is always moving. So.
Always moving.
I like the way that you describe it, it's like the holistic view of something. It's not just the build cost or this, it's kind of looking at it. And sometimes it's build because the product's not there, but a lot of times if it's commoditized, we generally recommend that as well.
And also just skill sets, ecosystem of certified people in rather than a point solution, it spreads the risk a little.
Well, one thing that Moorthy didn't bring up, and I'm surprised he didn't because he always laughs at me when I say it, when we do these lifts and shifts or we're trying to build new software platforms or bring legacy things into Salesforce, I always challenge the business, because a bad process and a good tool is still a bad process. So I really challenge them to evaluate that and make sure. Because if you're having to do that and customize too much, maybe it's not the right tool for you. So.
Yeah, square peg, round hole kind of thing.
Exactly.
All right, appreciate it, guys. We're at time now, so thanks all for joining us. Hope you're going off to your respective happy hours, and enjoy the rest of Dreamforce. Thank you very much.
All right.